Hi, I'm Elizabeth. I'm an artist wannabe. In this video, I'm going to show you a few pet portraits that I've done. Typically, I've done pet portraits using watercolor in a more traditional style, which has always been really fun, and I've seen a lot of growth in that technique. However, Impressionist art has really been catching my eye lately, so I decided to try to learn an Expressionist style using acrylic paint on pet portraits. Something that's been exciting is that I purchased my first set of professional acrylic paint, and it moves deliciously. The pigmentation is also incomparable to any craft paint I've ever used before. No hate to craft paint itself, it's just a different realm. So here's some examples of watercolor portraits that I've done in the past. People that follow me on my Facebook art page are familiar with these, and so I decided to paint my dog Milo first using the acrylic paint I just purchased as well as the Impressionist style. It was a lot of fun. And then once I made this painting, I posted about it on my Facebook page and asked for 5 people to collaborate with me for a low cost of $50 and free shipping so that I could get some more samples of this style. And by golly, I got 5 people to work with me and let me paint their sweet pets. I'm always thankful for an experience to work with others. All right, introductions have always been difficult for me, so thank you for bearing with me through that. The rest of this video is going to be a dive through all the paintings I've done. My first victim, pet portrait, was my own dog Milo. Once this bad boy was finished, I got a lot of comments about his snout being so long, but believe it or not, his nose really is that nosy. Milo is in fact a miniature dachshund, so he really is just a long boy. Rather than telling you step by step exactly what you already see me doing, I thought I would just give you a few fun facts about my boy. Milo is a very happy camper and is living proof of the phrase, well, you should stop and smell all the roses, because he's a happy little guy and he has loved sniffing flowers on all of our walks since he was an infant. In my neighborhood right now, most people have flower beds around their mailboxes. When given the chance, Milo will yank at the reins and put that long nose of his to good use. Another fun fact about this boy is that he is food oriented. I am meek about the treats that I give him because he will not stop eating if food is in sight. There was this horrible episode last year where he was asleep in his bed napping, so I thought, oh, okay, well, since he's comfortable, I don't want to disturb him, and I go and take a shower that probably took about 15 minutes. When I got back, Milo's entire belly was swollen. It was like a piñata. When he saw me, he took off with his belly dragging to the floor and he tried to jump on the couch. Well, because he was so overstuffed, he totally missed the couch, bounced off of it, and fell on his spine. He looked like a cockroach on its back. Now, keep in mind, Milo is about a 10-pound boy. He ate through an entire cardboard box, the kind for shipping. Then he ate through one of those cardboard boxes that holds the food, and several plastic bags, to then consume 6 pounds of dog food. Luckily, he was well taken care of and he did in fact survive. However, he did not learn his lesson because I swear to you that boy would eat 6 pounds more if given the chance. All in all, he sure is a cute dog and a sweet boy with those big floppy ears. They just don't work. He does not listen. And yet I love him anyway, as does everyone who meets him. I'm not exactly sure what Milo's favorite color is, but mine is definitely green, so I decided to use a green background. I think that it really complements the caramel undertones in his fur. The reason that I added some of those pinkish red undertones in some of his fur is because while red and green are complementary colors and they're very contrasting, giving the illusion of vibration next to each other, I thought that those pink undertones would help pull in some of the pink from his natural nose. Dog. So in the past, I've typically only done dogs for pet portraits. However, one of my returning customers, someone who supported me throughout college and then even after, accepted the collaboration and asked me to paint 2 of her goats. Now, I know nothing of these goats other than, in my opinion, they're very goofy, kind of derpy looking, in a cute way. And then also, based on some of her Facebook posts I've seen, these goats kind of think that they belong in the house, kind of like they're big old lap dogs. They seem really silly and fun to have. I really like the little checkered hats that she put on them. I feel like it really sells their personalities. I do have a fond relationship with goats because for a minute there growing up, we did have a few goats in the yard. And so when I would get off the school bus, it was my job to feed them up. And I would often just get in the pen and run around with them. They really are just like big dogs. And then another person who's a repeat client, I believe, who's only ever purchased originals from me, asked to collaborate with her dog. I know absolutely nothing about this canine other than the fact that it's super cute. Now, as you can see in the beginning, I kind of eyeballed the measurements the wrong way, but later on I figure out the problems. Right now, to me, it kind of looks like a cross between a dog and a bear, which is a pretty scary concept. However, this dog does come alive later on. Something I find challenging about pet portraits is whenever it's a lighter colored dog. Like, I've done this one in the past, of course using watercolor, but I find the lighter the values, the more difficult it is for me to capture those details. Luckily, this dog in particular has a very dark coat. Looking back before the eyes and the teeth and the tongue come into play, this painting so far kind of looks like a bear mask. I also find painting teeth a little bit more difficult because there's such a variation between colors. Like, you want your teeth to kind of be halfway in the shadow, underneath the snout, but also you want them to have a little bit of yellowing, some discoloration to look more realistic. You very much can tell, now that everything's colored in, that I did make the snout much shorter than the jaw, the bottom jaw, and so he kind of has a elongated, which a lot of dogs do have, however this one does not, and I think that was what was giving off bear. Now, right here is where I start adding the magic and fixing those proportions where I kind of made it too short on the snout. For this background color, I pulled the purple from his tongue and his gums because I thought it would make it all pop. I really do like the purple background. I think that it made the dog look pretty regal. Now, I didn't catch this dog's name, so I'm not sure if this is a king or a queen, but it is looking fancy. Then, after I finished the rest of the fur along the neck and chest area, I added a good bit of highlight with white paint, which I know to some artists is a major crime, but I really like the contrast. Now, unfortunately, believe it or not, I also don't know anything about this dog other than it's a cute little puffball, and the owner of it seems really friendly. She's been super encouraging and bubbly throughout our conversations. As you can see, with the bigger canine, I had learned my lesson about measurements, so I was really taking my time trying to make sure that these measurements were accurate, as I didn't want this dog to accidentally end up looking like a bear or a flamingo or whatever you have it. So yes, instead, the beginning of this drawing does end up looking very much like a very poor drawing of that children's cartoon Bluey. One of my good friends said that the beginning of this drawing kind of looked like a Furby, and someone else said that it kind of looked like a gremlin, which I think are very similar. So right here, when I start drawing in those little features, right here is when I started seeing a very poorly drawn Bluey character. However, the more layering that went on, despite my lack of confidence here, I do believe that it did end up looking just like the owner's cute little fur ball. If you've gotten to the point where you're guessing what kind of dog this is, meaning what kind of breed, I'll let you know that it is in fact a Furby. Just kidding. It is a Pomeranian, which personally I have always thought was pretty cute, but I think that I've been endorsed a little much by London Tipton during my childhood. I thought her clothes, her dog, her shoes, her everything was the cutest ever. But now, these days, I'm very happy with my little long-nosed rat boy. Right here, do you see the resemblance? Let me know what you think. Does this look like a poorly drawn Bluey? Does it look like a Pomeranian, gremlin, or a Furby? Maybe even something I'm not catching. You let me know. At last, here's a glimpse of the finished products. And if you're interested in following me on TikTok or Instagram, it's at Lisbeth. All right, goodbye. Thanks for hanging out.